As the great man said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr. walked the walk of empowerment. He chose to grow from the adversity he faced. What a role model for us all. Early humans learned to survive by quickly categorizing people as friend or foe. This is a fundamental, rapid, and needed practice of our minds. We group people into categories based on social and other characteristics. But this natural process is also flawed, as it is the foundation of stereotypes, prejudice, and ultimately discrimination. No matter how much melanin colors our skin, most of us, I hope, would like to see ourselves as egalitarian, wanting equality in all areas for all people. But willingness to examine our own possible biases is essential to making progress in the fight against racism. Here are a few definitions. Race, a group of persons related by common descent or heredity. Racist, a person who believes that one's own racial group is superior or that a particular racial group is inferior to the others. Implicit bias, bias that results from the tendency to process information based on unconscious associations and feelings, even when these are contrary to one's conscious thought or declared beliefs. Implicit association tests, or IATs, were developed by scientists from the universities of Washington, Virginia, and Harvard to be measures of unconscious bias. They assess bias about racial groups, gender, sexuality, age, and religion. If you consider yourself unbiased about race, then consider that no matter your color, you've been subtly and not so subtly influenced by society since the day you were born. Even 3-month-old babies have been shown to have preferences for faces from their own ethnic group. Between 2002 and 2015, 3.3 million people from around the world took an implicit association test on race. I am sad to report to you that only 18% of respondents were neutral. Data for 68% of respondents suggested an automatic preference for European Americans over African Americans. This automatic preference was present even for many non-white respondents. This does not mean that all these people believed or behaved as racists. But as a European American, a white girl, I must not ignore that result. None of us should. Whether intentional or subconscious, whatever our race, we have subconscious thought that can influence our behavior, especially when tired, distracted, or stressed. What does this influence look like? What can it look like? Here are some examples. Studies have shown that teachers telegraph prejudices so much that some researchers believe that children of color and white children in the same classroom effectively receive different educations. A classic experiment showed that white interviewers sat further away from black applicants than from white applicants and ended interviews 25% sooner. People were less friendly to target groups when data from tests suggested that they possessed an implicit bias. The list goes on. I took an implicit association test about gender. I had to identify a couple of people that I knew something about. I identified Angela Merkel and actor David Schwimmer from the show Friends. Angela Merkel seems level-headed and responsible. David Schwimmer's character on Friends was very emotional, so I see him that way. My test revealed some bias towards seeing Angela Merkel as emotional and David Schwimmer as responsible. What? That is the opposite of what I consciously think. But subconsciously, I may associate that he is a man and society has taught me that men are responsible. And women are emotional, right? Ick! I am a pretty responsible person, so that is hard for me to wrap my head around. What lies in the subconscious is interesting, but ultimately, a person who is the victim of racism simply wants racist behaviors toward them to stop. Even if we harbor unconscious bias, the great thing about being a human being is that we are not purely instinctual. We can override automatic thoughts with conscious thought about what is fair and what is right. We can do unto others what we would have done unto us or our children. I talked to several African Americans about what they would like the white population to know. My friend Nikkei said, "We are not all aggressive. We are not all criminals. Many of us are professionals just like you." I have known this woman for over 20 years, and she's been to hell and back a few times. Her ability to go on in life, seek higher education, raise her girls, and never quit has been a total inspiration to me. I love you, Nikkei. I talked to another gentleman too. He is a 20-year vet. When asked what he wanted white America to know, he said, He thought for a moment. "I'd like you to know what it's like to be me for one day." Let that land on your heart. He said that when he gets in an elevator, he'll see a lady grasp her purse a little tighter, or that one time after a tour of duty, he was so happy to get home to Detroit. He went out front to smoke a cigarette and relax. Someone in a red pickup drove by and called him the N-word. He said he can travel the whole world and not hear that, only here at home. He wants to retire with his wife, but he said, "Where do I go?" He wants a lower cost of living and to be welcomed. There was a desperation in his voice. We talked about how protesting together provides common ground and helps us come together. I don't hug too many people right now with COVID-19 on the rise here, but when he offered, I very gladly made an exception. Here is what we can do to prevent bias from tainting our behaviors. First, become aware of our own biases. Go to implicit.harvard.edu and test yourself. Click here and go to the Race Implicit Association test. Of course, no test is perfectly accurate, but still, you may be surprised. You'll get the point. Another thing we need to understand is that people of color have a very different life experience than white people. Children of color are often disciplined more harshly in school or not called on by the teacher. Jimmying a car that we locked our key in could be viewed as criminal or dangerous behavior simply because of skin color. Also, we can work on any common interests jointly, such as reform in police departments. This way, we come to experience one another simply as people. In an experiment conducted by Carolyn Wood Sheriff, She succeeded in artificially building up mutual aggression between groups of Boy Scouts. The aggressions only subsided when the kids dedicated themselves to a collective purpose. A purpose for today could be as simple as helping someone pick up blown over trash or find something in a grocery store. Look for the opportunities. They're there. Be the first one to reach out in kindness. Take a chance. Thinking about equality is boring and unhelpful. Do something to help. Make adjustments in policy or your own attitude. Catch racist thought or behavior in your home, office, or school and be unafraid to stick up for someone who's being mistreated. If you are an employer, peruse your job applicants with demographics removed from your copy. If you conduct auditions, say for an orchestra, do them blind. This practice resulted in raising numbers of female musicians from 10% to 40%. If you deliver health care, administer it by rigorous treatment criteria. These are a few ideas. Be creative in how to be inclusive. I am so glad that the whole world is protesting inequality. I'm also so glad my own eyes are open wider. The big change has begun, I think. Let's keep the ball rolling fast. I, too, am sick of hearing politicians say things like, "Our thoughts and prayers are with the so-and-so family." Big deal. Everyone has some type of platform. Right now, this is mine. Use your particular sphere of influence to sow peace, because that's empowered.